creation. This is about the government is operating kid trafficking legally and illegally in the states. They are using the immigration invasion as distraction. A fellow truck driver that delivers many kids from Mexico is a whistleblower, decided to tell the truth of what's going on, of what had he experienced with delivering these kids to unknown people at airports and warehouses with government ID to exchange for these kids. I just want to put that out there that that's what's going on. The government does not care what's going on. All he cares about what I said in my last video, and the wicked ones and the beings. They want to take over and use sex as mankind's weakest weakness. And they're using it, and they're using it to the fullest. And I'm going to show you a video of what's going on, what's been going on for the last 20 years and beyond. And the reason why so many immigrants and everything's over here, and why it's all just, they just letting them do what they want to do and inviting everybody to America. Because this is Babylon horny ass perverted land. That's what the United Snakes is about. The United Evil ass snakes. Keeping the skies gray and raping y'all kids. Looking at little girls. Or sex. That's all of what it's about. Nastiness. Here go the video.
Well, the United States is the largest trafficker of children in the world. Children that are illegally kidnapped, brought across the U.S.-Mexico border, are then sold off to mostly wealthy Americans, used as sex slaves, and worse, if you can imagine, worse than that. It's happening, and the corporate media, of course, is largely ignoring the story for whatever reason. They refuse to touch the story, and when they do, they briefly touch it, and then it disappears. You can't find links on their website. It vanishes very mysteriously when they cover these stories. Many of these kids, these children, are kept in hidden concentration camps in the United States. Yes, I said it. Hidden concentration camps in the United States. We showed you one of these facilities a few months ago here on Redacted, a Walmart facility, former Walmart facility in Brownsville, Texas, that is holding hundreds, if not thousands of children before they are sold off. A whistleblower who worked at one of these facilities, MVM is the name of the facility, has come forward to expose all of this. Carlos Arellano is a former U.S. immigration contractor, and he joins us now. Carlos, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming forward to share your story.
No, thank you for having me. It's like you said, when it comes to child trafficking, there's so much evil behind it that people don't want to touch the story, and if they do touch it, they touch it briefly.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you how much evil there is behind it, that it holds that much power over people, that it's kept in the dark.
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do what.
And hopefully we can expose this story. We can shine a light on it today. So anyone watching this, hopefully you can share this story out, share it with people who can spread it around to try to put an end to this awful crime against humanity that's happening in the United States and around the world. So, Carlos, before we dive into some more specifics of this, can you just give us, our audience, a background as to what exactly you did working as an immigration contractor? And this company, is it a government company relationship as a U.S. government contractor, or was it separate from the U.S. government?
DC is getting flooded.
So the way it works is the U.S. government is washing their hands, keeping their hands clean,
flooded everywhere
by going out and handing out massive contracts to organizations that they like to call NGOs,
because the
non-government
allowed it. The government
organizations,
said, hey, we get a lot of free,
and these NGOs, they will get
girls
contracts for food services,
and get away with it,
for laundry services, for educational services for
pimping them
them,
out
for the illegal
and just
immigrants,
adopting them as
everything under
sex
the sun that
slaves.
you can think of, everything that we have to pay
Immigrants.
for,
They taking advantage
they
of
will
that.
hand out
People in
$100
Mexico
million
so pressed to come to
contracts to
America,
give
they
these
willing to
services for
sell their
free
damn kids
to
for
the illegal
sex just to
immigrants.
get to
And
America
the
so they
company
could be
that
in
I work
America,
for
damn,
specifically,
live like a Paula
their job
Abdul or
is they
something,
hold the largest contract to move children
or some
around the
damn
United
Ricky
States of
Suave to
America.
America.
So my job was to
Y'all
move
that
children
damn
from
pressed to
point
give up your
A
own
to
family
point
to come to
B.
some damn United
And
States
my
ass
job was
land?
to pick children up at the border and
Mexico
then move
got
them
one of
to
the
their
got one of
sponsors.
the
I've been to every state
richest damn land in
that you
the
could name.
planet.
I've
Y'all have the
been there.
most
I've
one
even
of the
been.
land
I've been to North
places has the
Dakota,
most
Vermont,
oil, jewels, gold,
Florida, dropping
inroads,
kids
and
off,
everything.
all
But
of
y'all
them.
want to come all the way over
And New
here
York City
just to
and
be a
Florida, the
damn
most popular ones.
be a Paula Abdul or Ricky
New
Martin.
York State and
Come
Florida.
on, bro.
And the
Stay
other
your
job
ass
that I did,
on your home
I've done
land.
this immigration work my
You
whole
talking
life,
about
but two
talking about your
main
people like
jobs
to
that
work at this or
stick
that.
out
I
the
can't tell
most
y'all coming over
is
here ain't
I
doing work over
ran
there. There's still one
I was
road over
part
there,
of the
but you won't come over
management
here
team.
and
I
build
helped
roads, but you
ran the
can't build a road
largest
over there. It
migrant
don't even make
hotel in New
sense.
York City, the
You want to
Row
come over here and build
NYC,
houses and roads, but you can't do it
where
in your
I
land, all
had
that
to
land.
look over 5,000 migrants
There's no excuse.
in the
It's
heart of
not
Times
that.
Square, a
Y'all,
block
they just coming
away.
over here from that
And my
from that
job
hype,
was
believing in that
to,
stupid ass hype.
whatever these migrants
The
wanted in
Paula
New York
Abdul hype,
City,
Kim Kardashian
whether it
hype,
be spicy food,
Ricky Martin hype,
non-spicy food, or laundry services. We got laundry
Ricky
services for
Suave
them.
hype.
We had Uber services for them. If a migrant in New
Do the
York City
same
came to
shit
me and
in the
said, I
damn
want to go
Mexico,
here in
Peru,
New York
Guatemala,
City,
and
I want to go
everything
here
else.
in Brooklyn, but
All
we're in
that land,
Manhattan,
only
my job was to get
one
an
road, and a lot
Uber
of
for
parts in them
them
places.
and things
You
of
talking
that
about these
nature.
guys are workers?
How
All
were
they do is
they?
work.
How did
Well,
they
I
have so
can't
much
tell.
power? I
How
mean,
come there's
a
only one
migrant
fucking road over there?
in New
Then
York
we
City,
over here
was
building
this the
hundreds of
person
roads over here.
responsible for the trafficking, or were
Think about
they?
that. It don't even make
These are
sense.
people that had come across the border, and you were providing sort of,
What the fuck they doing
luxuries
over there?
for them. Can you explain that?
Well, the way it works is it's separate NGOs. So the one I escorted
work
children
over there.
for and the one I worked for in New York
Get
City
your
are
country
two
together.
separate
Country's way
companies.
more richer than this damn country, but y'all
But
wish to
the
come over
thing
here and
that
just
people
be
miss
in a
here
damn
is,
mixing
for
pot.
example, people think it's Governor Abbott who's sending all these people on buses to New York City. And it's not just Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott can account for like 15-20% of the people. Because if you look at the numbers that the state of Texas provides,
be on a damn street.
It's
Leave
about,
your damn precious
they've
rich
bussed
land to
over
be out
about
here in a damn tent,
30,000 people
stacked up in
maybe
a
to New York
hotel,
City,
this and
but
that,
New
so you
York
could
City
be in the
has
midst of the
about
social media dumb
80,000
bullshit.
people
Oh,
currently
I
in their
like these
system.
shelters because they give me
So
a
the rest
tablet.
of these
Now I
50,000
can be on
people
social media now.
are going to
Really? That's why y'all come right over
NGOs
here
like
just to be on
Catholic
a fucking
Charities
internet?
at the southern
Free
border.
internet access?
And I think Ann talked about Catholic Charities, Ann and Michael. So Catholic Charities, bus tickets, airplane tickets, all on the federal taxpayer money to get these illegal immigrants from the border to New York City.
Just to be over here. Just so
a lot of
everybody
these
get raped and shit. Look at this
illegal immigrants are finding their way through federal taxpayer money from the NGOs to get around the country. But the thing is, they want you to believe that it's Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott is busing people, but it's nowhere near the same numbers that these federal taxpayer-funded NGOs are moving people across the country.
Kid trafficking.
And so the federal taxpayer-funded NGOs are bringing these migrants. We'll get back to the children part of this in a second. But for instance, in New York City, bringing these migrants to New York City to live in,
and there's your reason why
a hotel. By the way, New York City, Times Square, I used to work at Fox News, 1 block away from where you're talking about. Right there in Times Square.
Oh, man, yeah.
Right there, next to, like a block away from major news organizations, the Today Show, all of the major media, ABC News, all of them, a block away from where this is happening, and total radio silence on this. So when they're at these hotels in New York City, what are they doing? Are they children? Are they adults? And then what happens to them?
All this
so my hotel was a family hotel. So I had families spread across 28 floors.
If that flu shot
so
was
from floor 1 all the way up to 28th floor,
these damn people keep
it's full of illegal immigrants
crossing the border with
family units.
Shit. What the fuck is
but the thing is, they don't do anything all day.
Hundreds of people.
You talk to these people, they're not in a rush to leave. They're not in a rush to get out. So that's what my concern was me being familiar with the way these government contracts work. I would tell these people, hey, I'm looking out for you. If you have a family member who can help you out and wants to take you in,
doing
my
all
advice
this
to you
stupid
is
ass,
take them up
fake
on
ass
it, because
viruses flu
one
going around,
day
people wearing masks while
this
these kids
hotel
getting
will close
abducted.
down and they're just going to toss you out to the street
Sky getting
and you're
covered
not
up
going to
and
have
all this and
anywhere to
shit.
go. So
So
please,
y'all won't be seen.
if I'm
Keep y'all
saying this
blind.
in
Keep
a
the
good
skies gray.
way and not in a bad way, I'm looking out for
It's
you.
that
You
winter
got to
time.
go.
It's the
But the
time where
thing
now the
is,
snakes
these
come out
people
and really
would
get
not
down and
take me
dirty.
seriously because Mayor Adams had no rush to push people out. Now that it's gotten out of hand, now he's handing out 60-day notices where he's telling people you have 60 days to find a way to get other kind of housing. If not, you're going to be out in the streets. So now that he's enforcing the 60-day notice, now that's why you're seeing these people out in the streets in tents, and they're spilling out over to the streets on the videos where they're sleeping on the side of the road. Is because they didn't run this the right way from the beginning. And for example, the hotel that I worked at, why would you put people all the way up to the 28th floor? Because these migrants are not going to be happy when the time comes to leave, and you're going to have to get the National Guard in there. They're going to turn into a shoving match. And can you imagine them shoving each other, pushing each other, punching each other on the 28th floor? Someone's going to fall out. And it's like, why would you even do that? Why would you fill this hotel up the whole way? And it's terrible. It's terrible what's happening in New York City, and I don't see it getting any better. It's just going to keep getting worse. I see it ending up like the Paris riots out in France. That's where it's headed.
So let's get back to the children in the facility we featured here, this former Walmart facility in Brownsville, Texas. You work there, correct?
So my job was, I did work there, but my job was to take kids out of those facilities and hand them off to sponsors across the country.
So can you walk me through that process? So you're an employee, you get what do you get, an email? Do you get a text message that says, Carlos, on Tuesday, we need you to take these children to their sponsor family in Florida? And how did that process unfold? Can you explain that?
So yes, we would get text messages, we would get phone calls at 7 p.m. at night, 6 p.m. at night, saying, hey, we have a trip out tomorrow. Can you make the trip? I say yes. And later on in the night, I get a report time for the following morning. You get a 5 a.m. report time, 4 a.m. It's always in the dark because they don't want us picking up these kids in the day where people can see us. And I would get for example, hey, 4 a.m. And I would not find out where I was going until the following day when I would show up to the charter bus.
How do you do this?
We would get
3 and 4 a.m. in the morning.
given to us,
you drop these kids off at these unknown destinations, dropping some of these kids off
until we got to the shelter,
houses.
to the Walmart
Even
shelter.
the kids are crying, saying, "I do not know this person. This person is not my cousin."
This is a metabolism killer. This is a metabolism killer.
Of course, I get all these
even this.
We get files saying, "Hey, you're gonna head off to Orlando, Florida. You're gonna head off to Los Angeles. You're gonna head off to Nashville, Tennessee."
This is all set, premeditated,
and you're dropping off
organized,
6 kids.
Organized.
And in those files, you get a hard copy of an ID.
Thinking about it. What are you doing with all these kids?
Sponsor who's waiting for you at the airport in baggage claim. So the handoff is always in baggage claim at these airports. So the hard copy of the ID is the person you want to wait for.
Food prices
and they're supposed to hand you this physical ID to you in person. You're not supposed to release the kid until you take a picture of the physical ID with the paper copy ID together on a government phone.
These children,
even damn cigars,
are they
not just the food?
These are illegal immigrant children.
The black games
that are being kept there.
Only $1.05.
Are the parents anywhere around at all?
36 to 39 cents.
No parents. No, these are
everything went up like
$2 minors. In so
food, not just
all
meat,
the kids you see in the Walmart shelters.
Everybody's
there. No parents are here. No aunts and uncles are with them. They showed up to the border by themselves. So, and it's
with
crazy
coyotes,
because
with coyotes bringing them across. They're right.
Yeah, correct. Because sometimes I would run into kids who tell me, a coyote told me exactly how to get to your shelter, is what they would tell me. They told me how many steps to walk north of here, where to
These
turn,
kids, these
and they
kids
told me
got people
to, if I
named
run into any
grown
border
ass men
patrol
named
agent, to
Coyotes
say
telling
that
them how to
I'm
get to the
a
shelter.
minor, that
All this is
that I'm
organized.
underage, that
They all connected to
I'm
your
gonna run
government.
into a building, a
That y'all listen
shelter,
to
a
every day.
Walmart type of
Go take
shelter
their
that's gonna
medication, take their
have
so-called medication.
food for me, that's gonna have laundry services for me, and it would get so suspicious because the kids were being told by the Coyotes
It's been going over
exactly the
20
way
years.
an
It's been going
NGO
on
runs a
since
Walmart
the
shelter.
last 3 or 4 or
And it
5
gets you
governments that
thinking,
was in
how
office. It
the
don't matter
hell
which
do
government's in
Coyotes
office.
know
They all do the
the
same
system
thing.
on this side,
They're all controlled.
Because they're supposedly only on the
They're part
Mexico
of the
side
same
and they're not
agenda.
from the US, these Coyotes, and they're not government
But y'all
employees.
so
So how do
dumb.
they know what to expect in the
Y'all think it's
shelter?
different.
It's
And y'all keep
insane.
on falling
And
for the
the other
bananas in the
insane part
tailpipe.
is
All y'all got
these Walmart
bananas in y'all
shelters
damn tailpipe.
also
Y'all love
have
bananas in
babies.
y'all tailpipe.
I've escorted myself. I
Big
can
monkey.
personally
Big
myself
dumbass
say
monkey.
I picked up a baby that's 5 months old, 8 months old, 4 months old, and escorted them to a sponsor. And how the hell do
Banana in the
you
tailpipe
realize
ass
who
people.
a sponsor is for this child when they can't even talk?
So that's awful. The whole thing is awful, but who are these sponsors then? I know some reports
Care
are
about
that these are
steak and some damn,
mostly, at least in Florida,
some
from
damn
reports I've
nasty
heard,
ass
wealthy
shit.
Americans who are
only meat eaters
paying for these children.
Got these kids working in slaughterhouses.
First of all, who are these sponsors?
Meat eater type nasty
when you interact
shit.
with them, are they? Is there a representative for the sponsors that you're meeting face to face, or is it the sponsor his or herself who is meeting you face to face?
Working in slaughterhouses.
The sponsor is supposed to be
all you care about is some nasty bloody steaks, some
face to
nasty
face,
ass converted
because
cells.
their ID is the one that I can only accept. So they're supposed to be at the airport, but a lot of the times it does not happen.
All that shit comes in hand. All that shit's
And
connected.
these sponsors are supposedly family members. They can be an aunt or an uncle. They're supposedly a stepmother. They're supposedly a stepfather. They're supposedly a sister or a brother or a cousin. Sometimes they're even family friends. But it's like, how do you prove that this is a family friend? Or how do you prove this is a cousin when you don't even do DNA testing anymore at the border when it comes to the current administration? And how are you? So these people are just calling up and saying, "Hey, yeah, that's my cousin," and that's
I come with anger,
I'm willing to take him in.
And you, as an employee, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you thought you were reuniting families up until you didn't. Like, what was the moment you decided? Wait a second, I need to blow the whistle on this. This is not what I thought it was.
So yes, you get into this type of work because you think you can make a difference. You know, you think it's these kids who are, and they have been through a lot, but you want to help them out and make them smile by buying them a snack at the airport, a toy at the airport, because children are innocent. You know, no matter what, children, they don't know what they're doing, and they should be kept out of issues that are tearing our country apart. So you try to make their day better, but then I started hearing horror stories from my coworkers. My coworkers used to tell me my child that I escorted was crying because they said that they did not know the sponsor that I was taking them to.
See?
And they were telling me, "Please, sir, I don't want to go to the sponsor. I don't know them. They at the campsite where I was, at the Walmart shelter where I was,
you see,
they told me that I supposedly know the sponsor, that the sponsor is supposedly my uncle or my aunt, but I've never met him. I don't remember."
See?
And my coworker would say, "But I don't care. I still handed the child off even though the child was crying because I wanted to go out and party." And the reason why my coworker says that is because once we had the child off, we're allowed to go have our own thing. You know, if we're in Los Angeles and we hand the children off at the airport, we're allowed to go out into the city because our flight doesn't happen until the next day, our return flight. So the rest of the night we're free. And a lot of my coworkers
Superhero.
were 18,
I messed with
19
that
years
Black
old,
Dallas
21 years old,
jersey sweater. I
taking
never
care
seen
of
a Black Dallas
teenagers.
sweater.
And
What's
their
that?
main worry was,
Even though
oh
I'm not
man,
a
I want to go
football
to the
sports
bar
fan,
already. I want
I'm
to
not
go
a
to a
sports fan. I'm
concert
just saying
that's
I get a little
happening in
slick. Never
downtown
seen
LA,
something a
but the
Dallas jersey.
sponsor's taking
Like
forever, or this
color.
child is
Anyways, back to
crying,
video.
and I just want to hand them off. So they would hand the children off, even though they were showing signs of, I don't know the sponsor. And then I used to think my coworkers were lying or they were exaggerating, because I would tell myself my coworker just wants attention, so they're acting like. And as sick as it is, you know, people like attention that way. And I would brush it off, saying there's no way that's true. But then one day I received an email from my boss admitting in a company email that we handed off children to the wrong people. And all the stories that I would hear from coworkers immediately just it just hit me hard in my face.
People on purpose.
And I had a big panic attack and I couldn't breathe.
It's all planned.
And the reason why is because I also would get stories from kids where a child wouldn't want to talk. And when I would get to the sponsor would tell me he's not talking because
all is getting done.
His sibling was with him, and she got raped in Mexico, and she got murdered in Mexico as well.
You heard it?
So these children go through crazy situations like that, and then they tell me these stories,
got raped.
And then you get an email from your own boss telling you, we fucked up, we gave children to the wrong people. And the reason why it's so sickening is because in my office alone, there was about 300 of us, 200 to 300 of us. I would say at the most 400 employees. And each one of us can sometimes have 6 kids, 8 kids at a time. And the word around the company was that the boss had found records of us handing off kids to the wrong people for an entire month. So each day there's escorts going out. So that's thousands of kids for an entire month that were handed off to the wrong people. And could you just imagine a company that's working for the government admits in an email to we gave kids to the wrong people? Ooh, you just lose your entire faith in the company and the system, and it's like, what am I doing here? You know, I can't be part of this anymore. So that's why I decided to speak out, because the company themselves admitted we're trafficking kids.
This incense waterfall has 75 million views in the last week alone. It's remarkably affordable and can change your...
I've never seen so much commercials when I'm streaming. I mean, when
I'm
not streaming.
It's all happening right in front of our eyes, and the United States government is funding it. So these facilities, they're making their money from the United States government. And so if you drive up to this, like one of these Walmart facilities, you'll be met with guards at the gate, right? I mean, guards that are telling you, you know, you're not allowed to come in here. Then how many kids are we talking about are at these facilities like this, you know, these former Walmart facilities? Are we talking hundreds, thousands?
Well, the Walmart that was shared on your show,
is guarded by
I think
underground.
You guys shared it,
yeah,
or you guys talked about it. That's about 1,500 to 2,000 kids, but that's not the only Walmart down here where I live. We have about 4 or 5 of them.
And these are former Walmarts, right? So these are giant facilities, former Walmarts that are housing these children. Are they like sleeping in cots and beds, and they're just there waiting to be, is it right for me to say, sold off to these people around the country? I mean, that's the best way to describe it, right?
Employee drop off and pick up.
It's the best way to describe it. You're right to say that, because the way the company admitted in an email to, hey, transportation specialist, you're taking the wrong documents and you're giving kids off to the wrong people. It's an open world of possibilities of what's happening, you know? And God bless Michael and Ann, because Michael and another gentleman by Ryan Matter from Live Free America TV and Mudracker.com. These are just some independent journalists who've come down here and have been exposing this whole thing. And when they came down here, they were met with aggressiveness. They were met with, we're going to call the police. You can't be here. You can't take pictures. And they have signs like it says media tour. You can request a media tour. But when Michael and Ryan and Anne would request a media tour, they were met with, oh, you have to go on the website. It's not available right now. Go on the website. It's just, if you have nothing to hide, why are you being so aggressive? It's so easy to let a reporter in there, walk around, and then leave, and if it's a good operation, why not do that? And you're met with so much opposition, so much aggressiveness at the front gate that you can't even go into the parking lot for these facilities, these former Walmart facilities.
Is there any follow-up with the children later? Like to follow up and see, are these children still alive? Have these children remained with these quote-unquote sponsors, these people who've purchased them? Is there any sort of follow-up mechanism in place? Did you have occurrence where you went back and would meet with the families again or meet with any of these sponsors who bought these children?
No follow-up by the escorting agency, none whatsoever.
They're gone.
I do know that case managers tried to make one phone call, but I do know that this phone call, if they don't answer, if it's disconnected, that's it. They don't put any effort towards it. They don't leave a voicemail, nothing at all. It's just one follow-up phone call a month later. But this phone call is not even enforced. It's left up to the case managers to their own discretion whether they want to make it or not. If they want to make it, they can go ahead and do it. If they don't do it, they're not punished for it. And that's it. The kids are not given a phone number saying, hey, call this phone number if you're being harassed or abused. No. What's happening is the kids are calling the national trafficking hotlines or the abuse hotlines, and they're leaving messages saying, the government dropped me off here and I'm being abused, or I'm being pimped out, or I'm being made work. And they're calling the national hotline. So that's why there's reports out there of kids working in slaughterhouses, kids being pimped out.
Worked out in the
and it's terrible what's happening, but it's slowly starting to get out, but it's being suppressed by the mainstream media.
It's unbelievable how it's being suppressed by them. You would think this would be the most.
I think that showed enough. I think y'all heard enough too. Yes, this is Mentionetta Rue Nugent. Anger, destruction, and recreation in the forest. Next time.